Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio is, of course, very well done and quite moving. It's Guillermo freaking Del Toro. But I have a problem with it. I can't get as excited about it as everyone else is. And I'm surprised everyone's so excited about it considering my problem with it. Because, this is considered the frontrunner for Best Animated Feature. And I would nominate it because the craftsmanship in some of the performances are just so incredible. But I don't think it should win. Because here's Puss in Boots, by the way, should win. Puss in Boots, the last wish. But anyway, my big problem with Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio is how derivative it is. And not just of other work, but of his own work. He's ripping off himself at this point. And I think that's an interesting question. At what point do you go from having a brand as an artist, which is very important, to suddenly just repeating yourself? And so there's no reason to revisit your work. He's very celebrated creative, Pan's Labyrinth, which we're going to talk about a lot in a moment because that's what he's ripping off. He recently won for Shape of Water, again, which, as I told you, I did not get that movie. And I was like, you leave that fish alone, lady. But then last year, my favorite movie was his Nightmare Alley, which I felt was on brand for him, but different enough that it felt fresh and new. But here, I feel he's falling back into, comfortable routines. And so I feel it's basically another Pan's Labyrinth. Now, Pan's Labyrinth at the time was quite revolutionary, and that came out almost 20 years ago. So maybe he feels he can sneak it by people who don't remember that movie, which is weird, though, because everyone who's praising it should remember Pan's Labyrinth. It's the movie that put Guillermo del Toro on the map as an artiste. But that also used a dark fairy tale and the innocence of children to tell a story about real-world evils in the 1940s. There, Spain, here with Pinocchio, Italy. So I guess, if you haven't seen or don't recall Pan's Labyrinth, this Pinocchio might seem very fresh and daring to you. But I constantly was like, you already did this. Are we really doing this again? And how are you getting away with it? The film is also, I guess getting away with it is too harsh, but it's like, how are you getting praised for doing the exact same thing again? Maybe someone would say he's bookending Pan's Labyrinth, but I don't think there's enough new here for that to be the case. The film also reminds me a bit of his 2014's The Book of Life, which he produced only, but it has his stamp very much on that film as well. So if you were to smush Pan's Labyrinth and The Book of Life together and throw in Nazis, that's what you have here. And Laika, if you sprinkle some Laika in there. We'll get to Laika. Some of you might be like, sounds like a great time, Grace. Well, you know if it sounds like a great time to you. If you're like, now I'm not sure, well, there you go. And also, speaking of those things, the film is also incredibly sad, like really sad. It deals extensively with death. Oh, that's what everybody wants to think about during the holidays. So considering that the film is repetitive and not even treading new ground, what would be the reward for many of us to go through that difficult emotional journey? I can't tell you, oh, it's so sad, but wow, it's like Life is Beautiful. Life is Beautiful was like one of the saddest movies I've ever seen, but it was quite the journey and it was fresh and new and it was a different take on a Holocaust movie. So yes, you should watch that. You should put yourself through that. And Titanic, James Cameron's Titanic. I've seen that movie so many times, it makes me cry every time, but it's an incredible film. Here, I guess the animation's really good, but I don't know. It's very sad. But again, if you like a good cry, and some of you do, well, then I have the movie for you. I will say, though, that while this movie is far from perfect, Disney should be embarrassed that they had their own Pinocchio come out the same year in comparison. I did enjoy that Pinocchio. I enjoyed the cozy factor and the nostalgia. But when you see and you put it up next to the sophistication of Guillermo del Toro's movie, and you remember what Walt and his team used to be capable of, how they were groundbreaking, well then, the other Pinocchio is quite frankly embarrassing. And Robert Zemeckis is supposed to be a master of evolutionary filmmaking. He's always supposed to do something exciting at the very least. And, he really phoned it in. I think that becomes all the more evident when you see this film. The best reason to see this movie, without a doubt, and I hope a lot of casting directors watch it, is Gregory Mann, who voices Pinocchio. To get an incredible, nuanced, and mature performance like this out of a child actor who can also sing, he can do everything. He's funny, he's dramatic. Wow, it's very rare. It puts Gregory Mann, who's new to acting, right up there with some of the most famous child actors of all time. What a discovery by Del Toro. I'm going to nominate him in the Critics' Choice Awards for Best Actor, even for a voice performance. I don't even know if I can do that, but it's so good, I'm going to try. It's that good. I was really, really impressed. The rest of the voice cast is, of course, very good because it's of an amazing caliber. Ewan McGregor, always enjoyable, although it was funny because here he has to care for and constantly run after and reprimand a very special but disobedient little boy, and he so often sounded so much like Obi-Wan running after Anakin. I was like, oh, I hear Obi-Wan there. Christoph Waltz, Tilda Swinton, and Guillermo Del Toro favorite Ron Perlman are also great, as is to be expected. But they're it's pretty standard performances from them at this point. None of them are asked to really push themselves at all. It's just, it's exactly what you would expect from them. But Cate Blanchett as Spazzatura, oh, that was hilarious. This is a new character, a monkey, and I think she only voices him for one quick scene, but it was very effective, very funny. And this is a new character that I really appreciated. How Spazzatura factors into the story is quite interesting because, again, he's a new character. Now, on that note, Guillermo Del Toro and his team do play with the myth of Pinocchio quite a bit with some clever and fascinating changes. What they do with Pleasure Island I thought was really, really interesting. And how you turn into a donkey. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And also the expansion of the story. So it kept me interested in that regard as well. I was like, oh, okay, that's new. I didn't see that coming because it's never happened before with this story. But again, because it's so similar to Pan's Labyrinth, I still had to take points off. I was like, oh, that's a cool idea, but I feel like you did it before. But of course, the animation is absolutely a delight, and animation fans will be in heaven. It's just spectacular from a craft perspective. The movie is mind-blowing in that regard. So good that you often forget that you're watching stop motion and you think you're just watching highly stylized computer animation. The character design is also incredibly detailed and nuanced, as you'd expect from Guillermo Del Toro, as are the settings. But again, it all has that very distinct Guillermo Del Toro feel that we've seen so many times now. Maybe he's a bit overexposed. Maybe he's the Rock of artiste filmmakers. If you enjoy Laika movies, by the way, which were also more about artistry than entertainment, and they have the bad box office to show for it, then you will also love Pinocchio. I'm sure some of you are very offended by that comment, but it's a harsh reality. To be fair to Laika and Pinocchio, though, Laika's strongest film was their first and their most successful, Coraline. And this Pinocchio is very similar to that. Although, again, here's yet another reason why Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio isn't particularly unique. It has shades of Coraline as well. Whereas when you watched Coraline, you were like, oh, this is cool, I've never seen this before. As a Critics' Choice member, Netflix sent me some Italian hot chocolate, imported hot chocolate to enjoy with this film. Unfortunately, I received the hot cocoa after I'd already watched my screener. But I felt it was such a good idea because this Pinocchio loves his hot chocolate, and also, I think so I would recommend that you watch this movie with your own hot chocolate. If you can find some Italian hot chocolate, go for it. But I think any hot chocolate will do. Because I think a steaming mug of hot chocolate will help some of the darker, bitter, and more sad moments go down. And maybe that's why this Pinocchio likes this hot chocolate, come to think of it. So, but they don't even really make that clear. But I mean, still, I don't know. There's layers. But again, I feel I've already seen this movie with Pan's Labyrinth. So that's my review of Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio, hitting Netflix this Friday after a run in very few theaters. I'd definitely watch it, especially if you're a movie fan, and particularly if you're an animation fan. It's don't miss if you're an animation fan. If you're just a movie fan, yeah, I'd check it out. It's good, but just temper your expectations and prepare yourself for one heck of a sad movie. All right, so that's my review of Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio. I'm very excited to watch the animation Oscar race this year. Come on, Puss in Boots. But I wouldn't be sad if Guillermo Del Toro's Pinocchio won. It would just be same old, in more ways than one. All right, so again, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.